It should have been a normal Tuesday night. I was supposed to be in Seattle until Thursday for a conference I didn't want to attend in the first place. But the last speaker bailed, the schedule shifted, and I caught an earlier flight home. I didn't tell anyone. That's what gets me. If I just texted her, or called Jules like I always did, I wouldn't be telling this story. But I didn't. I wanted to surprise Natalie. Thought maybe we could order in Thai and watch trashy TV in bed like we used to before things got distant. Our place was dark when I got there. Quiet. The hallway smelled like lemon floor cleaner. Something about that detail still sticks with me. Like the building itself was trying to scrub away what was about to happen. I didn't even knock. Just keyed in like usual. Dropped my bag by the coat rack. And then I heard music. From the bedroom. Not loud, but enough to be strange for 8:30 p.m. on a work night. I remember smiling. Just a flicker. She's feeling good, I thought. Maybe she poured a glass of wine, lit a candle. Maybe she missed me. Then I saw the wine glasses. Two. One still half full. One completely empty. Both red. Both still warm to the touch. I didn't have to open the bedroom door. But I did. I wish I could say I burst in like some righteous hero. That I screamed or threw something or demanded answers. But I didn't. I just stood there. Frozen. And there they were. Natalie. My girlfriend of almost 2 years. And Jules. My best fucking friend. Jules, who once drove 4 hours to pick me up from a mental health clinic after I had a panic attack so bad I couldn't breathe. Jules, who held my hand at my dad's funeral when I couldn't look my mom in the eye. Jules, who always said, "I'd kill for you, dude." Well, I guess she meant it. They didn't see me right away. I saw her shoulder first, then the curve of her back. Jules' hair, wild and dark, draped across Natalie's stomach like it belonged there. I think I made a sound. Not a word. More like a breath being kicked out of my chest. Jules looked up. Her eyes went wide. Not with guilt. Not with fear. But something worse. Recognition. She didn't flinch. Natalie gasped. Pulled the sheet up like modesty mattered now. Oh my God. Wait. I backed out. Closed the door. I don't know how long I stood in the hallway. Could have been 10 seconds. Could have been an hour. I just kept staring at those wine glasses, the little red smear of lipstick on the rim of one. They say betrayal feels like a knife in the back. But to me it felt like falling down a well. Fast. Cold. Airless. I grabbed my bag and left. Didn't say a word. Didn't cry. Not yet. That came later, when Jules texted me like nothing had happened. A casual, "Hey, we should talk." Talk? Talk about what? How long had it been going on? Had they laughed about me? Had she, the woman I told all my secrets to, used them to get closer to Natalie? And the worst part? I started to wonder if Jules had always been waiting. If every time she said, "I love you, man," she meant it a little differently. But here's the real question I couldn't shake. Was Natalie the first woman Jules had taken from me? Or just the first I caught her with? I didn't sleep that night. Instead, I opened the Notes app and started writing everything I remembered. Every little detail. Every weird look. Every moment I dismissed over the last 2 years. I was trying to stitch together a timeline, like some kind of emotional forensic pathologist. And the more I remembered, the more it didn't add up. Because if this started recently, if it was some heat of the moment thing, why did Natalie have Jules' favorite wine in the fridge? The next morning, I called in sick. Sat on the couch for hours just staring at the blank TV screen while my phone buzzed like it had something important to say. I didn't answer any texts. Not Jules. Not Natalie's. Around noon, I caved and opened one. "Jules, please let me explain." Explain what, exactly? That she'd crossed a line you don't come back from? That she'd betrayed me in the most humiliating, theatrical way possible? That she'd taken what little stability I had left and set it on fire? Still, I typed back. Just one word. When? The dots danced. Then stopped. Then started again. Eventually her reply came through. It was only once. It wasn't supposed to happen. Bullshit. There's no such thing as only once when there's history involved. When someone knows the sound you make when you cry. When they've seen you ugly and broken and still showed up with soup and sarcasm. That's the kind of intimacy that doesn't slip up. It creeps. I turned my phone face down. My hands were shaking. Not with rage. With something quieter. Sadder. Like grief. Like I just lost 2 people in one night and I wasn't even allowed to mourn. By 3 p.m., Natalie was outside my apartment. I heard the knock and didn't move. She knocked again. Then, "Eli, please." I didn't mean for it to go this far. This far. I opened the door. Just a crack. Her eyes were swollen. No makeup. Her hair in a knot that told me she hadn't slept either. You should go, I said. She leaned in. Can I just talk to you for a second? I almost laughed. Talk? You mean like how you and Jules talk behind my back? Like that? She flinched. And for a moment, I wanted to believe she was sorry. That this was some massive mistake. That maybe I'd played a part in it. Too distracted, too closed off, too whatever. But then I remembered her hand on Jules' thigh. And I closed the door. Behind it, I heard her whisper something. Maybe it was my name. Maybe it was goodbye. Either way, I didn't open it again. That night, I poured the wine down the sink. Both bottles. Scrubbed the glasses clean. Tossed the sheets. Deleted their contact photos. And then, I sat down and started writing again. Because if I didn't get this out of my head soon, I was going to start believing I deserved it. And the worst part? Some part of me still missed them. 3 days. That's how long it took before someone else stepped into the blast zone. Her name was Erica. A mutual friend, more Jules than mine, but we'd shared drinks and laughs enough times to land on the same group texts. She DM'd me out of the blue. Hey, I heard what happened. Just damn, if you ever want to talk. At first, I ignored it. But then I remembered something. New Year's Eve, 2 years ago. Erica pulled me aside at Jules' apartment and said, she's territorial, you know, about you. I'd laughed. Thought she meant it in a cute, protective way. I figured Jules was just overprotective of her favorite broken bird. But now, I saw the whole moment differently. I called Erica. She answered like she'd been waiting. Hey, she said soft. I didn't know what I was going to say. So I just asked, how long do you think it's been going on? She didn't hesitate. 6 months. Maybe more. I exhaled hard. My stomach twisted. How do you know? She paused. Jules told me she was developing feelings for someone off limits last summer. Said she felt guilty. I didn't know it was Natalie, not for sure. But the signs were there. I felt sick. Why didn't you say anything? Erica's voice cracked. Because I didn't think you'd believe me. And because Jules is good at making people feel like they're crazy when they question her. I sat down hard on the edge of my bed. Jesus. She's not evil, Erica added quickly. But she's needy and competitive. And when she thinks she's losing someone, she finds ways to pull them back. That hit harder than I wanted to admit. Because yeah, Jules always had a way of reeling me back in. A joke at the right time. A memory. A look that said no one gets you like I do. Erica asked, did she ever tell you about that guy she dated in college? The one who ghosted her after 6 months. Yeah, I said. She called him the Vanisher. Said he messed her up. Right, Erica said. That guy? Had a fiancé. Jules didn't find out until he disappeared. She never told you the whole story. When she found out, she slept with the guy's best friend. Said it made her feel powerful again. I blinked. There it was again. Not a slip-up. A pattern. I thanked Erica. Hung up. And then I did something I didn't think I had the guts to do. I texted Jules, you didn't just break my trust. You made me question who I was to you. And I think you've been rewriting this story for a long time. She didn't reply. Not right away. But when she finally did, it was a novel. A 10-paragraph confession, apology, rationalization, and blame shift all rolled into one. She said she'd always loved me. In some way. That she didn't know how to handle it when Natalie came around. That she never meant to cross a line but didn't know how to stop. She ended it with, I never thought I'd lose you forever. And all I could think was, you didn't lose me. You threw me away. And that's when I realized, this wasn't about Natalie anymore. This was about Jules. And the damage she left behind. But what scared me most? I still didn't know why part of me wanted her to fix it. The following week, I became a ghost. Not the cool, edgy kind who haunts exes and writes cryptic status updates. I mean the hollow-eyed version of myself that shows up to work, answers emails, and nods in meetings like the words aren't just bouncing off his skull. People noticed. My manager asked if I was okay. My friend Colin from HR offered me a beer and an awkward bro hug. Even the barista at the cafe near the office stopped writing dumb puns on my coffee sleeve and just wrote my name in lowercase like I was a tragedy. And in a way, I was. Everything I thought I knew about my closest relationships had unraveled in a single night. No reset button. No dramatic closure. Just raw silence and texts that made me feel sicker every time I opened them. Jules texted again. I miss you. I know that's selfish, but it's true. I didn't respond. I couldn't. But I couldn't delete her either. I kept rereading her long message, dissecting every sentence like a pathetic archaeologist trying to unearth where things had gone terminal. She said she loved me. But what kind of love hijacks your relationship and leaves you bleeding out quietly? Then one night, I saw them. At a bar downtown. Some charity thing. I hadn't planned on going, but Colin had dragged me out, convinced I needed social oxygen. I didn't know they'd be there. But the second I walked in, I saw Natalie across the room in a soft green dress, laughing too loud at something Jules said. They hadn't seen me. Not yet. I stood there, halfway to the bar, watching the two women I'd once trusted more than anyone drink from the same wine glass. And it hit me. They looked happy. Effortlessly, devastatingly happy. My stomach turned. I wanted to walk over. Say something brutal. Drop a line so cutting it'd haunt them both for years. But I didn't. Because the only thing worse than being betrayed is realizing you're the only one still grieving. So I left. Walked the full 30 blocks home in the cold. No music. No Uber. Just my footsteps and the bitter sound of my own heart thudding out a new rhythm. They moved on. They moved on. They moved on. That night, I wrote in the Notes app again. Not to vent. Not to build a case. Just to ask myself a question. What if Jules didn't take Natalie from me? What if I gave her away? Bit by bit. Day by day. Every time I avoided intimacy. Every time I buried my feelings instead of saying, I'm scared, or I need more. Every time Jules comforted me when Natalie couldn't. Was I the ghost long before I realized I was dead? The worst betrayals don't come out of nowhere. They bloom in silence. And I've been silent for too long. Still, that doesn't mean they weren't wrong. And it doesn't mean I deserved it. But maybe, just maybe, it means I wasn't as innocent as I thought. I closed the Notes app. And for the first time since that night, I cried. Not because they broke me, but because I finally saw the cracks I'd hidden from myself. A week later, I got the invitation. Not from Jules. Not from Natalie. From her. Natalie's mother. It came as an email. Polite. Short. Too formal for what it was. Eli, I know things ended badly, and I completely understand if this feels out of place. But we're having a small family dinner for Natalie's birthday next weekend. She asked me not to reach out to you, but I felt you deserved the choice. You meant something to her. To us. To us. I almost laughed. I stared at that message for a solid hour. Tried to decide if it was manipulation, kindness, guilt, or some cocktail of all three. What kind of mother sends that kind of note to the guy her daughter cheated on? But then I remembered. Her mom used to call me the calming one. Said I had a grounding energy. Said Natalie always smiled softer around me. That stuck. Still, I wasn't going. Not at first. But that night, I sat on the couch, poured myself a drink, and wondered, how do you really get closure when you're the one left behind? When no one admits fault. When no one even says, I'm sorry I hurt you. So yeah, I showed up. The restaurant was high-end, dimly lit, all polished wood and clinking silverware. The kind of place you go when you want your pain to wear a suit. They were already there. Natalie in a soft beige blouse, hair pinned up. Jules across from her, in black, like she was mourning something. Or maybe she just knew how much I hated her in that color. Natalie's mom lit up when she saw me. Got up, hugged me like I hadn't been erased from their lives 6 weeks ago. You look tired, she whispered. I sat down across from Jules. She blinked, clearly stunned. Natalie's jaw tensed. Her fingers gripped the stem of her wine glass just a little too hard. I wasn't expecting. Your mom invited me, I said. A beat of silence. Why'd you come? Jules asked, not unkindly. Just confused. I looked between them. The two women who used to mean home to me. The two women who now meant nothing and everything all at once. Because I needed to see it, I said. The fallout. The aftermath. I needed to see what you two looked like, in the daylight. Natalie's eyes softened. Jules looked down. I didn't stay long. Just long enough to eat half a steak and finish a glass of wine I didn't enjoy. But before I left, I said what I came to say. To Jules, you didn't just cheat with my girlfriend. You dismantled the foundation of 10 years of friendship. And you did it with a shrug. To Natalie, you didn't fall into something. You made a choice. And I hope you was worth losing the person who believed in you when you didn't believe in yourself. They didn't respond. They didn't need to. Sometimes the silence says more than the apology ever could. I walked out without looking back. Outside, the wind had picked up. Cold, sharp, and clean. And for the first time in weeks, I felt something that almost resembled peace. Maybe that's all closure is. The moment you stop hoping they'll make it right. And start believing you'll be okay anyway. I thought walking away from that dinner would be the ending. I thought the chapter had closed, the credits rolled, the pain neatly filed away. But grief has a sick sense of humor. It doesn't respect closure. It loops. It was 2 nights after the dinner that I dreamed of her. Not Natalie. Jules. In the dream, we were back at the park where we used to walk our dogs before she moved to the east side. It was golden hour, and she was laughing at something I'd said. Laughing the way she used to when we were just good, before everything rotted. And in the dream, she touched my shoulder, looked me in the eye, and said, "You know I loved you more than she ever did, right?" I woke up sweating, and I hated that I didn't hate her in that dream. So I started writing again. Not in the notes app this time. A real notebook. Pages and ink. I wrote her name over and over again until it lost meaning. Until it looked like a stranger's name. Then I wrote all the things I never said out loud. You didn't just betray me. You rewrote our history without telling me. You let me believe I was safe in a friendship you were slowly gutting. You told me I was your anchor. You were my storm. I needed you to be steady. You needed me to be broken. I wrote until the pages bled sadness. I didn't send it. I wouldn't. That wasn't the point. The point was, I had to reclaim my narrative. Because for too long, they wrote the story. Natalie with her soft apologies and easy rewrites of truth. Jules with her selective memories and weaponized vulnerability. But not anymore. This was my grief. My heartbreak. My story. And maybe it wouldn't end with revenge or redemption. Maybe it would just end with me. Finally letting go. Because here's what no one tells you. You don't get closure from other people. You write it yourself. And sometimes that starts with one impossible sentence. I still loved you when you broke me, but I don't have to carry you anymore. I ran into Jules again. Not in a dream this time. Real life. Random, ugly timing. It was late, maybe 11:30. I'd stepped outside a friend's apartment for air, ended up on the fire escape, clutching a warm beer and trying not to spiral. And then the door creaked open. She stepped out like a ghost conjured by the weight in my chest. We locked eyes. "Didn't know you'd be here," she said. "Didn't know you still existed," I muttered. Too tired to pretend, too raw to rehearse civility. She didn't laugh. Just leaned against the rail beside me. We stood there like strangers at a bus stop. Close, but not touching the same reality anymore. "Do you hate me?" she finally asked. I took a sip of beer. "Some days." She nodded. "That's fair." There was a long silence. The kind that makes your ribs feel too tight. I should have walked back inside. Should have slammed the door. But I didn't. Because something in her voice sounded small. "I miss the version of you that needed me," she said. I turned to her. "You mean the broken version?" She flinched. "No. I mean, the version that let me in." I laughed, but there was no joy in it. "Jules, you didn't want in. You wanted control. And when you couldn't have that anymore, you tore the whole thing down." She looked like she wanted to argue. But she didn't. Instead, she said the one thing I never expected. "I'm getting help. Therapy. I've been going since the night you walked out." That hit harder than I wanted it to. Because yeah, part of me had hoped she'd spiral. That she'd feel what I felt. But another part, the part that still remembered her at my dad's funeral, or the time she drove 4 hours to get me out of that shitty motel in Oregon, that part just wanted her to heal. "I'm not the victim," she said quietly. "I know that now." I didn't respond. I couldn't. Because something behind my ribs was cracking. "Can we ever be friends again?" she asked. And I wanted to say yes. God, I wanted to. But I thought about the wine glass. The look in her eyes. The silence that followed. The way she let me burn without even trying to put the fire out. So I said, "Maybe. But not now." She nodded like she already knew. "Okay." Then she went back inside. And I stayed there, alone on the fire escape, watching the city breathe. And for the first time in months, I didn't feel like I was chasing closure anymore. I was just living inside it. Spring came late that year. Cold hung in the air like it didn't know when to leave. And somehow, that felt right. I was still in the same apartment. Same creaky floors. Same dent in the drywall from when I dropped the TV during the move. But something felt different. Like the space had finally exhaled. One morning, I opened a box I hadn't touched since before Natalie. Inside were photos, letters, old ticket stubs, remnants of a version of me I hadn't seen in a while. There was a photo of Jules and me, both 24, drunk on someone's rooftop. She had her arm around me, and I was smiling like I didn't know heartbreak yet. I stared at that photo for a long time. Not with anger. Just curiosity. What would I say to that guy now? Probably this: "You'll survive." and it won't feel brave. It'll feel like walking through mud in the dark. But eventually, the ground firms up. Eventually, you stop reaching for the wrong hands. Later that week, I ran into Natalie. At a bookstore of all places. She was holding a copy of something pretentious, probably for a book club. She smiled like we were acquaintances. I nodded. That was all. And weirdly, that was enough. Because I didn't need revenge. Or explanations. Or any final monologue to prove I'd won. The win was this. I wasn't hers anymore. Not the hurt version. Not the hopeful one. Not even the bitter shell. Just me. Reassembled. The last page in my notebook reads. Healing isn't cinematic. It's boring. It's quiet. It's brushing your teeth when you'd rather scream. It's making eggs for one and not flinching at the silence. It's seeing the people who broke you and not letting it split you open again. I don't know if I'll ever understand what happened between us, the three of us. Not completely. But maybe healing isn't about understanding everything. Maybe it's about learning how to live with the questions. And finding peace anyway. The last time I saw Jules, it wasn't planned. It never is, right? Closure always sneaks up on you when your hands are full and your guard is down. I was at a small art show, a gallery tucked behind a record store, the kind of place where no one claps and everyone pretends to get the symbolism. I was there with someone new. Her name's Mara. She's quiet, dry-humored, kind in the way that doesn't ask for anything in return. Jules walked in 10 minutes before we left. We saw each other instantly. That invisible thread still there, tugging just hard enough to notice. She didn't walk over. Just gave me the softest nod, like we were two people who once shared a life and a dream. Mara noticed. Asked, X. I nodded. Want to leave? She asked. I shook my head. No. I'm okay. And I meant it. We stayed. I held Mara's hand. And when Jules eventually passed by on her way out, she paused. Hey, she said. I turned. Hey. She glanced at Mara, then back to me. You look good. Thanks, I said. I feel good. She smiled. A little sad. A little proud. Then she leaned in and whispered. I'm glad you made it out. I didn't ask what she meant. I didn't need to. She walked away. And just like that, the thread snapped. Mara squeezed my hand. You okay? I looked at her. At the present. At everything I almost missed because I was busy trying to understand a past that was never going to explain itself. Yeah, I said. I really am. And for once, it wasn't about being strong. It was about being free. Maybe that's the final line in every story like this. Not that they hurt you. Not that you survived. But that you lived again anyway. It's funny what you remember when the noise fades. Not the heartbreak. Not the betrayal. But the in-between moments. Late-night drives with the windows down. Laughing in grocery aisles over dumb inside jokes. Sitting in silence that didn't need to be filled. Those memories stopped hurting. Eventually, they just became quiet. Mara and I took a trip that spring. Just 2 days up the coast. A rental car, a playlist we both kept editing mid-song, roadside diners that smelled like syrup and fried onions. One night, sitting on the hood of the car beneath a sky full of stars, she asked, would you go back and change it? If you could. I thought about it. About Jules. About Natalie. About all the pieces I had to lose just to find out who I actually was without them. No, I said. I wouldn't change it. But I'd want the old me to know he was going to be okay. She didn't say anything. Just reached over and held my hand. And I realized something I hadn't before. The version of me that shattered wasn't the final one. There's a version of me that stayed. That rebuilt. That kept showing up for his own life even when it didn't feel like it fit anymore. And maybe that's all healing really is. Not becoming who you were, but deciding who you'll be next. So if you're reading this, if you're sitting in the wreckage, still waiting for the apology, still carrying the weight, I hope you know you get to set it down. You don't need permission. You don't need their closure. You just need the courage to choose yourself. That's how I started living again. Maybe that's how you will, too.